All right, good afternoon or morning, depending on where you are, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time to join us for our education series and session today. We're going to be talking about innovating securely, and we all know the public sector is under a lot of pressure to innovate. And so I think this is going to be such a great opportunity for all of us to come together to share experiences, to give our public sector members the opportunity and space to really brainstorm and think outside of the box, to hear from some of our private sector members and leaders about what they're working on, and to really talk about kind of real world scenarios. So you can see we have an action-packed agenda. Because of the number of participants, your microphone is likely muted, but we do invite you and encourage you to use that Q&A and chat function if you have questions or comments you want to raise. And you will see in this agenda, we do have opportunities for real interaction. So I'm very excited to see how this goes, and we look forward to your feedback as well, where we have opportunities to break out and have more focused discussions. So as we begin with our first session, we're going to hop right in. In case you didn't know, I should have introduced myself. I'm Leah McGrath. I serve as the Executive Director of GovRAMP, and am just delighted to be joined today by Pitar from A-Line. Pitar, thank you for joining us. And I'm going to just tee you up a little bit and hand it over to you, because we talked about, how public sector is under pressure to innovate, whether that's AI, right? Digital ID, thinking about the digital experience of our citizens and those interacting with government. But we also know that while we're working on innovating, trust is the currency for public sector. If you work in government, you know that trust is the non-negotiable, right? Trust with your employees, trust with our citizens, trust with those with whom you partner. And so one of the things I know we talk about a lot is how GovRAMP can help enable that trust and be an enabler toward innovation. And so I'm just going to leave you with that as we think about the opportunities we have before us to really, at the private sector, right, bring great and secure products forward, and to really be a great partner with our government leaders. Pitar.
Good afternoon, everyone, and Leah, thank you, and thank you to the GovRAMP team for bringing together such an important group of leaders. Before I start, I do have to warn you, I have a few screens, so if I am looking at a weird angle of your face today, that's the charm of being in an office and taking all those calls remotely. And I was jokingly say I try to show my best side, but I don't always succeed. Before we dive in, let me briefly introduce myself. Pitar Veslev, I'm an EVP of Cybersecurity and Compliance Services at Align. We are one of the 3 PAOs and do audits and do many of them. I would say that my work sits at the intersection of security, compliance, and growth in helping organizations demonstrate trust in a very highly regulated environment, whether that's public sector, healthcare, financial services, or emerging technology companies. We work with thousands of organizations globally to validate security programs against recognized standards, GovRAMP being one of them. What that gives us is what I would call a front row seat to something important, the moment where innovation meets accountability. And what we see constantly is that the organizations that move faster aren't the ones that ignore compliance. They're usually the ones that build verification into how they operate from the very beginning. That's why the conversation today matters. So looking at the audience, CIOs, CISOs, procurement leaders, mission owners, commercial innovators, it's clear that this isn't just a policy discussion or a technical session. It's a trust conversation, as kind of Leah alluded to. More importantly, it's a conversation about how trust can become a strategic advantage instead of a bottleneck. Let me start with something I think many of you have probably experienced. When innovation slows down inside government, where does it actually stall? It's usually not because the technology is incapable. It's not because there's a lack of vision. Most of the time, innovation pauses at the moment when someone in the process needs more certainty before moving forward. Security wants assurance. Procurement wants defensibility. Mission owners want speed, but responsibly. And vendors want clarity on what secure enough really means. And when those things aren't aligned, momentum fades. That tension is especially real right now. We're seeing this in the market all the time. State and local governments are being asked to modernize at historic speeds, adopt AI, improve digital experience, move legacy systems to the cloud, automate processes, strengthen cybersecurity posture. In essence, do more with less. At the same time, public trust is a non-negotiable. Cyber incidents are headlines in the news all the time, and oversight expectations are rising. Fortunately or unfortunately, risk tolerance is at the same time shrinking. So we're operating inside a very real paradox. The pressure to innovate is increasing while the tolerance for uncertainty is decreasing. That's why I think we need to shift how we think about compliance and verification. Trust isn't something you check at the end of a project. It's what I would refer to as an infrastructure. When verification shows up late in the process, it feels like friction, feels like delays, it feels like a gate you have to pass through before anything can move. But when verification is embedded early, when it's standardized and shared, it changes the dynamic completely and ultimately becomes an enabler. Because what verification really does is remove ambiguity, clarifies expectations before procurement even begins, reduces duplication, and creates predictability across agencies and across vendors. Ultimately, predictability is what allows government and the private sector to move faster without compromising accountability. That's where GovRAMP is so important. GovRAMP isn't just a framework sitting on a shelf. It's a shared infrastructure for secure innovation across state, local governments, likely even more in the future. It establishes a common baseline aligned to recognize, I'd even say a gold standard. It requires independent verification, not just self-attestation. Promotes continuous monitoring so trust isn't a point-of-time event, and it provides a maturity pathway so vendors can demonstrate progress and commitment over time. That all matters. Because one of the biggest structural challenges, I would say, in public sector innovation isn't lack of intent, it's fragmentation. Different questionnaires, different interpretations of risk, different requirements across different jurisdictions. That duplication doesn't necessarily increase security, it often just increases drag and the time that it takes to complete a task. When you have a shared verification model, you don't eliminate due diligence. You strengthen it by making it consistent and portable. A vendor that goes through a structured government process, and again, I should have said, we audit against 30 some different standards. So again, happy to talk to any of them, but again, there's a reason why we're discussing GovRAMP today. And again, I'll tell you a little more about that as we go through the presentation. But when you go through that structured GovRAMP process, that brings a trust signal into the room before the conversation even starts. Security teams gain visibility, procurement teams gain defensibility, mission owners gain clarity. And that shortens the distance between idea and execution, something that's very important in today's day of innovation. This becomes even more critical when we talk about artificial intelligence. I know we have some sessions later on today. AI is no longer theoretical for government. It's real. It's being explored for fraud detection, for workflow automation, for digital assistance, predictive analysis. The opportunity is enormous, but so are the questions. How is the data handled? What controls are in place? What does continuous monitoring look like? How do we ensure accountability? If those questions are handled ad hoc every time in every jurisdiction, AI adoption slows. But if there is a shared verification infrastructure, if baseline security expectations are already defined and independently validated, then innovation conversations can focus on capability rather than uncertainty. That's the difference, in my opinion, between risk avoidance and risk-informed innovation. And that's the difference between reacting to technology and shaping it. Secure innovation at scale requires that shared responsibility. Government provides policy, clarity, and oversight. Vendors provide secure architecture and transparency. And in this case, GovRAMP provides what I will call the connective tissue. Standardized expectations, independent verification, and shared trust signals that reduce friction between the two. When those elements align, pun intended, something changes. Security, procurement, and mission stop operating in separate lanes and start operating from a common foundation. Instead of asking, has this been reviewed yet? The question becomes, how do we build on what's already been verified to move forward responsibly? Very different conversation, and ultimately that's what we call the trust advantage. Trust is the currency of public sector transformation. It is slowly earned, and unfortunately, it is lost quickly. And it must be engineered intentionally. GovRAMP ultimately helps engineer that trust. It creates transparency across government and industry, establishes consistent expectations across states, provides defensible, independent validation, and it gives both sides of the table a common language for secure innovation. For commercial organizations, some of you folks on the call today, that creates opportunity, not just access, but scalable access, because verified maturity travels further than marketing ever will. We see this every day. For state leaders, this creates confidence. Confidence that when you approve a solution, you're building on an independently validated foundation. Confidence that security and speed don't have to compete. Speed without security erodes trust, and security without speed erodes relevance. So ultimately, we need both. So if there's one mindset shift I hope that carries throughout today's sessions, and I know we have quite a few of them and some great ones, it's this: verification isn't a barrier to innovation. It's the runway that allows innovation to scale. If we treat trust as a shared infrastructure, as I mentioned at the beginning of this talk, something we intentionally build together, ultimately we reduce friction, we shorten timelines, and we create space for responsible experimentation. And that's how we power the future of state and local government. And Leah, I know we're pressed for time, so I'll hand it back to you to continue the conversation. I'm looking forward to the dialogue ahead and any questions that you guys might have.
Oh, thank you. And thank you so much. I loved that mindset shift when we think about this as security as an infrastructure, right? And that enabler. And especially I was shaking my head when you talked about how do we move this up earlier in the procurement process, because when we do that as well, we know it streamlines the entire process going forward. So really, really appreciate you and your expertise that you bring to bear. So thank you for your comments as we kick off. And we hope we kind of have the mindset now as we shift into hearing innovation in action. So thinking about what's actually happening out there in the real world. So Jennifer Fix, I am delighted to have you join us. Jennifer serves as the Deputy State CISO for North Carolina. And we've been working quite a bit with Jennifer and her team. And congratulations again on your announcement. I know you're working hard to see some new GovRAMP requirements go into place. That's effective April 1st. That's a different webinar. But for today, we are really excited to have you join us and Amy Ventura, one of GovRAMP's government engagement directors, to really talk about what does this look like in action when we start thinking about innovation and the state of North Carolina. So I'll hand it over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Leah. I'm so excited to be here and happy to talk a little bit about what we're doing in North Carolina. So I think there's some slides if you want to go to the first slide. I'm going to share a little bit about our framework in North Carolina, and I'm going to really, emphasize some of the things Patar said in his conversation too, because governance, transparency, they're key for responsible AI adoption. And this slide kind of shows what we did in North Carolina, how we started out in our process. In September 2025, North Carolina Governor Josh Stein established the North Carolina AI Framework through Executive Order 24. And he started by creating this AI Leadership Council. The point of the council was to set the strategy, set the policy first. The council is made up of 24 members that were designed and selected to bring together state officials, academic experts, and industry leaders. And it's co-led by the Secretary of the North Carolina Department of Information Technology and our state CIO, Tina Piccioni, as well as Secretary of North Carolina Department of Commerce, Lee Lilly. And the goal of the council is to advise the governor and the state agencies on AI strategy, policy, and training to foster innovation and preparing our workforce to be able to support this evolving technology. On the other side, on the right-hand side of the circle, the next component of the framework is the AI Accelerator. And that is being established within NCDIT, the Department of Information Technology, along with partnerships from the state agencies and oversight from universities, community colleges, and the private sector to provide the tool alignment to our centralized AI governance through this Leadership Council. And together, both of these components are what's driving our responsible AI adoption in North Carolina. You can go to the last slide, please. And now, just emphasizing again what Pitar said, I wanted to take a little deeper dive into some of the key tenets for responsible AI from our perspective. The first one is trust. Trust is foundational. In government, we serve the public, and our charge is to protect state systems, information, and safeguard our citizens' data. And the most effective way to do that is through alignment with strong frameworks like NIST, GovRAMP, FedRAMP, and the other ones that Pitar talked about. We also need that accountability, and that's ensuring clear ownership and awareness of the data in scope. Humans will always remain accountable for AI, and that needs to stay in place and be a guardrail for any automation. And then from an accountability perspective, that is part of the reason that the NC model is cross-functional by design. There are technical experts, policymakers, legal counsel, and program leaders at the table from day one. Again, what Pitar said, we had everybody in the room. Improving the decision-making and alignment up front helps identify those risks early, avoid the conflicts later, and help us bridge that gap between the technical and the regulatory impacts early on. And then lastly, but absolutely just as important as the other two components, is promoting scaling safely. It's not just to implement it and let it run itself. AI isn't the goal. The goal is better service for North Carolinians, and AI is just one tool in the toolbox. Having that governance framework that guides the technical configurations, the validation through that lens of accountability and risk management helps make better decisions. And looking at the use cases up front, starting with those low risk, high value use cases, things like procurement optimization, fraud detection, threat detection, and experimenting with the technology in safe spaces like isolated sandbox with pilots, using public data, and continuing to figure out how to always ensure that we're monitoring and have that human oversight in place.
All right. Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's really insightful presentation on, I think, an initiative that will be one for our government partners to really keep an eye on and to model moving forward when it comes to rolling out, responsible AI initiatives. So we have a few minutes just for some quick conversation and to dive into the process that North Carolina and really the approach that North Carolina has taken to rolling out this initiative. And the first question, and I think that's central to a lot of our work at GovRAMP, is why did governance in AI need to come before the tools?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's because in a lot of ways, it's still emerging technology, it's still new technology. We're still building the plane as we're flying it. So we need to make sure that we have the guardrails in place to be able to balance the quick adoption, quick jumping in to the technology with the security in place so that we don't get everyone going rogue out there. And there's also just so much diversity in the work that's in scope for each agency. You need to understand how AI is going to be used so that we can build the right solution in the first place. And without the governance in place, we hear stories, and I've seen a lot of examples where shadow AI comes into play then. And then you're starting to enter that area of high risk where there's no accountability, there's no human oversight, and things just start going rogue.
Right, absolutely. We always talk about the human element when it comes to AI initiatives. And you touched on how important it was to bring together cross-functional teams to work together to push this initiative forward. So I'm wondering, how did you align your policy, legal, technical, and program teams to start working together?
Great question. Starting with that shared governance model right off the bat gave us the opportunity to take each team's point of view into account and develop that shared vision up front and that shared vocabulary, because we all know legal vocabulary, technical vocabulary, sometimes it's hard to meet that in the middle. So we got everybody speaking the same language and working towards the same goal. And I mean, AI impacts and dependencies are so far reaching. So any initiative must also address up front the impacts to your workforce, the training that needs to go along with that, economic impacts, environmental impacts. We need to take into consideration all of those things that are going on in the space to protect and put security and control there, as well as the infrastructure and public safety. All of these things are equally important to just get right out of the gate.
Absolutely. It's such a holistic approach is required. And so with that, as we're looking back towards lessons learned, what would you say, what risks were most misunderstood early on as you were getting the team together and starting to work towards your milestones?
Yeah, I hear common themes even outside of the initiative we've been doing. A lot of my peers and colleagues have the same story. I think the first one is that it's not just a tool. You're not just buying a solution or configuring something in your environment. That's really important to understand, to have that accountability up front and have that shared partnership amongst all of the people that have a horse in this race, I guess you can say. And then again, especially people that are not technical, it's helping them understand that it's not a human hands-off autonomous automation. The human oversight is there, making sure we're transparent about that, and that we're always talking together with the team about possibilities and multiple solutions.
Yeah,
and I think the
absolutely.
other big one that I see all the time is data doesn't matter. Like, again, just throw a tool in there. We're going to do what we want with it. But when you connect any technology to a system, you need to understand the classification of the data in the system, the privacy, the regulatory requirements around the data, and even the quality of the data. Not having those components in place increases the risk of data leakage and misinformation.
Absolutely. And with that, the pressure to balance innovation in government, continue to be leveraging these cloud products that use AI. How are you able, through this initiative to balance that pressure to innovate with the need to create and establish public trust?
Yeah, it's all the things Pitar said. It's first transparency. The citizens of North Carolina need to understand the methodology, not the technical stuff and not necessarily the legal stuff, but just the methodology behind what we're doing on a continuous basis, because things change so fast. This cuts down on the pressure and the questions from the public. And, just being transparent about we're evaluating risk, how we're reducing that risk, how we're ensuring that human oversight is in place, and how we're prioritizing the low risk, high value use cases. And then the second one, I mean, I'm all about this too, Pitar. I preach this from the rooftops. Governance enables speed. It does not slow it down. Building in that verification upfront will actually help you move faster later. You need to start out having a clear path, have those defined use cases, understanding of the data and risk and scope, and having those conversations early on with security will accelerate your deployment, because it'll you don't want to get to a case where you're like, oh, I'm implementing in 2 weeks and I just want you to take a look at this, because that just never works out well.
Such a great point. And as a final note, just want to ask, what in your experience really signals to you that an AI initiative is ready to scale? And I'll say, as you complete your answer, Jennifer, we'll kick it back over to Leah. But thank you so much, Jen.
Sounds good. Thank you, Amy. I've been in technology a long time, and to me, it's the same signals as any other technology. So for example, you're implementing a third-party SaaS solution to manage your travel and expense system. First of all, risks have to be understood, mitigated to acceptable levels with security protections in place up front. You can't just throw something out there and call it a day. The second, again, is the people taking accountability for the outcomes, not just the tool, not just supporting it. And I see this a lot too from especially smaller organizations where the business really doesn't understand the technology. They know they need a solution. They don't understand all the other things in place. They're like, it's fine. I'll take care of it. I'll own this. That's still a risk at the end of the day. You need that technology partnership in place as well. And then, as well as owners and operators understanding what the AI can and can't do. That's important too. They need to understand the oversight they need to have. They need to be able to take ownership and continue to learn the technology because it is going to continue to change. And then close it out with the data. The quality of the data has to be controlled. You have to know what that data is, where it could be going, and how, making sure you're monitoring it and getting alerted if something does go awry. Those are really important things to me.
Great points. Thank you so much, Jennifer. We appreciate your partnership and we appreciate you taking the time to join our panel today. I'll send it back over to Leah. Yes, thank you so much. Applause all around. I think many of us were shaking our heads as you were talking, Jennifer, and you put things so well and explain things so well. So thank you for taking time to be with us. All right, now all of you out there who've been listening and watching, now it's your turn to be a part of the discussion. So what we are going to do is shift to our learning labs. What is going to happen here momentarily is you will see something pop up on your screen that says breakout rooms have started. And you are going to have the opportunity to view those and choose the ones that you want. So first we have door number 1. AI and service delivery. We're going to have a discussion led by Matt Singleton from CrowdStrike. Door number 2, we'll be talking about connected communities and shared data with a discussion led by Brandon Steers from NinjaOne. Thank you, Brandon. And last but not least, door number 3, you have trusted communications as critical infrastructure. And this is a discussion led by Karoom Shafi from Twilio. So thank you so much to all of our leaders here from Twilio, NinjaOne, and CrowdStrike. Here's what I'm going to encourage you to do. When you hop in a room, if you see a room that's especially crowded, feel free to check out another room that maybe isn't as crowded so that you can make sure everyone has an opportunity to have a voice. Once you settle, though, please stay settled. That way we don't have too much disruption of people bouncing around, and we can use the next, 20, 25 minutes really well. So go ahead, choose your room, and have a great discussion.
Welcome back, everyone.
I don't know if others were like me and thought, oh, I hit the wrong button. That was just a very cool experience. Taylor, thank you for putting that together for everyone. I hope everyone's discussions were fantastic. Ours was really great. Thank you, Brandon, so much for leading that discussion. Now we are going to shift into another Q&A really. So I'm going to invite, there you go. We're going to invite sorry, my screens all jumped around when that happened. Thank you, Maddie Gullickson and Christian Napier from the state of Utah, who are going to talk a little bit about how they're approaching defining ROI and, what success looks like before they begin that implementation. So thank you both so much for being with us today. And Maddie, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Christian, for being here. Quick background, because we are so excited to have him. He was named to the top 50 public sector AI professionals organizations by the Center for Public Sector AI. Christian brings a unique combination of technology expertise, business acumen, and leadership with 30 years of experience serving in a variety of industries, including the public sector and the Olympic movement. And he currently serves as the director of AI in the Utah Division of Technology Services and oversees all AI implementations throughout state executive branch agencies. It's amazing that you have, no have a headache every day. He led the first statewide rollout of a generative AI office, Productivity Solutions, in the U.S., and has led the establishment of the DTS AI Factory, designed to help agencies streamline the ideation, piloting, and deployment of AI solutions. It is absolutely incredible, and we are so, so excited to talk to you, Christian. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here today.
Thank you. Well, as we were kind of talking back and forth about the point of this session, we had started going down this whole path of everything that you were doing. And in that, then we kind of decided, wait a second, let's pause and back up even further and start thinking more about what's the thought process that needs to happen before you jump into all of these amazing and exciting things that you're doing to streamline and ideate and all the things, and really focus more on how governments can define ROI and ultimately that success, not just for, legislation, getting maybe more money on things, but ultimately for the agencies themselves and being able to know what's really practically helping. So as we think through that and kind of start with that as our starting point, one of our first questions is, why does government tend to struggle to define ROI for AI?
That's a great question. And let me say at the outset that our journey has not been a smooth one. It's been, there's been a lot of bumps in the road. And so we've learned a lot of lessons, hard lessons. I would say when it comes to the ROI thing, many people in the public sector aren't necessarily used to thinking in those terms, right? Because we don't exist primarily for profit, so we have to look at returns in different ways. And those returns can be different for different agencies and different projects. And that can be confusing for people, especially when trying to approach the legislature for funding, to work on certain initiatives. We're going through that right now with our legislature. We're in session at the moment, so I don't want to say anything that would jeopardize the funding ask that we have at the moment. But what we try to do is really distill it down. Is there one metric that we can focus on and not get lost in the weeds, because you can measure so many things. One of the great things about having so much information at our fingertips is we can make more well-informed decisions. But on the flip side, we can be looking at so many things that it can induce that analysis paralysis. So I'll just choose one item to focus on here, a project which is you talked about the rollout of AI in the state office productivity. We're a Google shop, so we use Gemini for Google Workspace as our AI tool, and so one of the metrics that we chose to use for ROI was time saved, and there are some challenges with time saved because it's primarily reported through self-attestation. Well, I think it helps me this much, and it may or may not. And people can debate the value of that, but it is something that people can share. So we had set a goal in the state. We have 22,000 employees for this year, the calendar year of 2026. That by the end of 2026. Employees would be reporting that they are saving at least 1 million hours a year by using these tools. So how do we measure that? We did it through surveys. So we launched our first survey in July of 2025. It was end of July, so end of July, early August. And what that showed us at the time was that employees who were active users of the solution were self-reporting. If you extrapolated it out to the entire active user base, that they were saving roughly 11,000 hours a week. So if you do the math, it's over 40,000 hours a month, in the savings, or almost 500,000 hours a year. We did another survey. We're actually in the middle of doing another survey right now, asking that same question. And what we found is that there's about 1/4 of the state employees, so there are about 5,500 employees right now who engage with Gemini at least once a week. So they're tapping into it at least once a week. This group of employees right now, according to the survey, and the deadline of the survey isn't even until Friday, but out of these 5,500 employees, we've had 2,100 respond to the survey. So we've had almost 40% of our employees so far have responded that are in this category, this group. And they are now reporting that this group of people are saving more than 60,000 hours a month using this technology, right? So then we start thinking, how can we increase it? So by the end of the year, we'll get to our 1,000,000 hours, right? So we lay out a program. Now, that's not a perfect metric, and I don't know if there is a perfect metric, but it was important for us to settle on one, and kind of shut out all of the others. And that's probably a long-winded, rambling response to your question, Maddie, but I just kind of wanted to talk it through and share some of our experience. This is what we're seeing so far.
No, and that's fascinating. And I not to get too much into the weeds, but I'm just curious, even from the survey standpoint, are you all like, are employees mandated to respond to this, or are they volunteering to be a part of this?
No, that's not mandatory to reply, so it's just
Okay.
optional. So
Okay.
I think that's actually a testament to our employees that 40% of them so far have taken the time to answer the survey.
Yeah.
We actually have another survey that we sent, a similar survey that we sent out to the users who are not actively engaging with it yet, to get their feedback as well, which is really important for us to then shape an adoption campaign, and understanding that there's some people, they don't want to use it, and that's okay. Like, you don't have to. It's just like pivot tables in Excel. Well, does every Excel user on the planet use pivot tables? Probably not. There's a subset of people who get a lot of value out of them. Same thing with AI. People don't need to feel like overly pressured or anything, but we do want to make sure that they're informed and they can make a choice, understanding how the tool could potentially be helpful. So, I think these surveys have been very important for us to help understand the mindset of employees, both those who are adopting these tools and those who have yet to adopt these tools, so that we can engage more people and meet them where they're at.
I love that. No, and kind of a twofold follow-up on that then. So when you are discussing this with the legislature, what's kind of the response in their understanding of what you're doing and how you're measuring? And because I think part of me asking that is, I think sometimes there are a lot of legislators that want to see more measurement in government. And so I'm just curious if you're actually kind of hitting that sweet spot for them, or they're understanding what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I think I won't speak for the legislature. They have their voice and they can speak for themselves. But what I can say is that one of the challenges that we have with this kind of measurement is people jumping to the conclusion, oh, well, we can use less people, right? So we can reduce it by having fewer people. We've been very, very careful to not tie this or relate this to FTE. And the
Oh,
reason
that's
for
an
that
interesting point. Yeah.
is we've seen a shift I don't know if other folks in public sector have seen this, but I've seen this shift, and I'm painting with broad strokes here because it doesn't represent everybody, but I've seen a trend, at least in our environment and state government, away from, and this is it within with the state government workers, moving away from the question of uh, is AI going to take my job, which is a very legitimate question. There's a lot of fear there. Now more toward how can I leverage this technology to do the things that I'm asked to do because I am overwhelmed with work,
Mhm.
right? So how can I do that? Pivoting from Gemini for a moment to Code Assist. So I know a lot of folks are using tools, and we are using tools as well. Uh, we currently use GitHub Copilot, and we are currently piloting Claude Code.
Mm.
In the Claude Code pilot, again, I'm big on the surveys. One of the questions that we asked in the Claude Code pilot was um, around velocity. So we asked the pilot participants 1 week after we gave them the tool, estimate the percentage change in your efficiency, your task completion speed using Code Assist technologies compared to your standard workflow, right? So what we found is 55% of the people in the pilot said that after a week of using these tools, they were at least 20% more efficient than they were the week before.
Wow.
I cannot think of any other technology since I started working in this stuff like in the late 80s, early 90s, that has had that kind of impact on somebody that quickly. When WordPerfect 5.0 came out for DOS, I can't think of anybody who said, okay, within a week, I'm this much more efficient using this technology than I was without it, to that scale where, that high of a percentage. So these technologies are significant. They're not going away. I do believe they are once in a generation tools. And the question then for us is, okay, how can we take the lessons from this group of people who are seeing these kinds of results in the work that they're doing and apply them to other groups of people who are doing similar things in the government, right? So
Mhm.
in the state of Utah, we have 500 software engineers in the state. This pilot has a small group of people in it. If and when we decide to take this technology and make it available to all 500 of them, how can we take this technology and put it in their hands so that more of them can see similar results that we saw, with these pilot participants? And I think that's probably the most important lesson that we can learn through measuring is
Mhm.
understanding why these measurements are occurring and taking the lessons from them and applying them more broadly.
No, that's brilliant. And just out of curiosity too, do you have products that are customer facing currently that you're using? Not yet.
No, so we've been very cautious on the citizen-facing AI front,
Okay.
but we're in the advanced stages of prototyping and internal testing, so we think we're going to be ready to launch. We have some citizen-facing things that are in pilot, but we don't have anything yet that is open to all of the state's 3.5 million residents, right? So we have some small things that are going on in limited scale, but nothing that's going out to the broad community
Mhm.
yet.
Within those though, are you thinking how are you thinking through measuring the trust and experience for the citizens once you do roll those out?
So that's a really good question. One thing that we've tried to do is not reinvent the wheel. We already have in the state, for example, a standardized design system called the Utah Design System. So we know that creating some type of a conversational AI interface for residents to interact with, we don't need to develop that from scratch. We can leverage our Utah Design System team, which is what we're doing, to create kind of a standardized approach to design for all state agencies to follow, so not everybody's doing the thing themselves. Similarly, we also have in the state a customer experience initiative that spans all agencies, and we have a CX team, and they've already got a pretty well-established methodology for measuring citizen engagement with government services. So rather than us invent our own way of measuring things, we're just integrating with and piggybacking on the work that they're already doing. We don't need to come up with all of that stuff ourselves. I think it's one of the important lessons that we've been learning is, hey, there are lots of people in the state who are doing some really great things. How can we work with them and collaborate with them to do that? One interesting thing that's come out of the work that we've done with the Utah Design System team, which we call the digital experience team, is, as you know, accessibility is a huge thing right now. It's a massive focus for public sector as we're all trying to become compliant with new laws and regulations and so on and so forth. And so they've got a big accessibility focus. And one of the things that we identified by working with them is that the traditional conversational chatbot interface is not well designed for those who have visual impairments. So we've been working with our Utah Design System team to see, is there a more elegant approach that we can use that will satisfy kind of the expected user experience for those who have sight, but also will not be so onerous or burdensome for those with visual impairment, right? So, those are some of the things that we're kind of looking into. And again, I apologize, probably a rambling answer to your question, Maddie, but hopefully that gives some insight into some of the things that we're considering.
No, thank you so much, Christian. And I know that we're at the top of our time. Unfortunately, because I just feel like I could talk to you for hours. You guys are doing so many amazing things, and we do just really truly appreciate you sharing the insights on how you're thinking about really capturing the value of these tools that you're implementing, and being able to tell that story. It's really, really phenomenal. Thank you so much, Christian, for your leadership.
Thank you.
Back to you,
thank
Leah.
you so much. Yeah, thank you, Maddie. Thank you, Christian. I know I was jotting down notes, and Drew Ellis always comes up with the toughest questions. So we don't have time to really get into that, but if there wants to be a chat on the side, said, I wonder if conversational voice models would be appropriate, provided they meet security requirements. So I'm sure we're going to get into a lot of that at some point. But Christian, thank you so much for all that you're doing and for sharing your experiences with us. A couple quick things as we transition to the final few. We're going to have kind of rapid fire demos here that I'm really excited about. But first, want to let you know that you will be receiving a recording of today's conversations, and you will also receive a follow-up with the Secure Innovation Playbook. And this is something that our team has been working on. We'll be updating to really pull in nuggets from the conversations that we've had today, the different questions and ideas. And so hopefully this is something that you can take back and refer to and have as a resource as you all continue your own innovation and security journeys. Today, we also launched our annual summit. So our GovRAMP Cyber Summit is happening November 15th through 17th in San Antonio, Texas. So we hope that you'll come on down to Texas and join us in November. It is going to be a phenomenal time. We're very excited about this. We also have our symposium in DC, March 9th. Hopefully we'll see several of you there. And it's going to be a great program all around. So thank you, thank you. Oh my gosh, I love the state of Texas shining star in the chat right now. So thank you, Lisa. We are very excited to be heading down south. All right. Now we are going to kind of transition with our closing sessions. And I'm going to ask all of you to hang on with us because we are so appreciative of our premier members who make this possible, because we could not bring education and the resources that we do without their support. So thank you to CrowdStrike, Twilio, NinjaOne, and A-Line for their participation today. So we're going to have kind of, like I said, rapid fire demos. We're really, as if you tie together all the conversations you've had, now we're going to hear from some leaders about what they're doing in this space. So first up, Eric Rogers from CrowdStrike. Thank you, thank you. I'll turn it over to you, and then we'll move to the next.
Can you see my screen?
Can you hear me now? Yes, we can. We can see it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks for having us. So CrowdStrike just launched back in December a product called Falcon AI Detection and Response. We all know that, you know, at the board level and the C level, we want to roll out AI for productivity gains, efficiency gains, to save, you know, taxpayer money and budgets. And AI is a pretty revolutionary technology because it's really pervasive. So we've joked for a long time that we need to secure our users because they operate the applications that are powered by the rest of our network stack. But we now have these AI agents and Gen AI applications that are actually operating and answering prompts and calling tools on behalf of our users. So we need a detection and response capability that can apply guardrails to AI use and show us where shadow AI is being used, and it really help us enforce our AI governance policies that we're trying to roll out. So that's what AI detection and response's goal is. It really has kind of two sides of the coin. We can help enable enterprise workforce usage of AI. So think about employees who want to, you know, leverage new productivity tools like ChatGPT, or Grok or what have you. We can show you who's using what AI where, uncovering shadow AI. We can also prevent sensitive data leakage going into these third-party models and help you enforce usage policies around AI. You may also be developing your own, you know, AI chatbots or portals to try to help streamline, you know, different constituent experiences, whether that's you know, an agency trying to get phishing licenses faster, whether that be a school trying to get better kind of student experience and so on. We can help secure those homegrown workloads. So I know 5 minutes is not really time for a full demo, but I'll just very briefly kind of show you. We have this Falcon AI Detection and Response module that's part of the Falcon platform, and it provides visibility, as you can see here, into which user is leveraging which application, like ChatGPT, for example, and then which models they're powered by. We also have a lot of different detection capabilities to prevent things like sensitive data leakage, looking for social security numbers, credit card numbers, PII, PHI, preventing that leakage. We can build policies around usage. So for example, allowing sanctioned AI usage, but disallowing unsanctioned AI usage. And then we have a bunch of different detection capabilities to also look for AI native threats, things like prompt injection attacks and others that may be occurring in your enterprise architecture. So, you know, in summary, there's really kind of two different use cases that we can help solve for. And then, by the way, I don't know, when I switched my screen, did it show the product that I was just trying to talk through? Did that work? Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
it did. Yes.
Sorry, I don't use Teams as often in my browser. But so in summary, we can help increase employee adoption of Gen AI tools securely. And then if you're building any AI experiences or agents, we can also provide runtime security there. So yeah, I'll stop there because I think I'm at my 5 minutes, but that's the high level.
Thank you so much. We do have a question and we have a minute for that. So we had a question from Drew. He says, that an add-on to Falcon or will it be an included module?
It's a new
Or a yes
add-on
and
module.
both?
It's a new module that includes Falcon data protection as well. So if you already have Falcon data protection, it's an upgrade there. If you do not, you get Falcon data protection capabilities as part of the AI detection and response module. So mostly net new is the answer, depending on your situation.
We did have one other question. Are you able to tie users to identities?
Yes, we are. Whether they're a human identity or a non-human identity, meaning an agent, can visualize, which applications and which models that identity is accessing. And then in most cases, we can also inspect the prompts and responses to make sure they're not malicious with like jailbreak or prompt injection attacks, to make sure there's no sensitive data leakage that may be leaking, and a whole host of other things as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. We know that was, I said, rapid fire demo, and you did a phenomenal job. So we really appreciate you taking time to join us and share that. On to our next, and we had a response to you. That was sweet. Thank you for your responses. So, okay, next up we have Brandon Stiers from NinjaOne. Brandon, I'm going to hand it over to you for your demo. So thank you for joining us.
Awesome. Does everybody see my screen okay?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah. So NinjaOne, right? Really what our goal is, as you can see here, is to unify and simplify IT operations. So if I come to this next slide, and this is really cool just for folks to understand the trajectory of NinjaOne. And there's a lot of really nice commercial logos on there, but really where my heart and soul exists is in the state and local government and education space, right? So I think one of the things that makes NinjaOne unique, and what I really like to talk about, especially in relation to the conversations that are happening today, is really we pursued FedRAMP and GovRAMP not as a, hey, we want to move to where the puck is going in terms of what our customers will need, but we actually did it a little bit more reactive because of the number of agencies that were already leveraging NinjaOne that said, hey, what are you guys doing? We need this. Let's get it. And so that's where NinjaOne really pursued GovRAMP and FedRAMP. We were very excited to announce last year, as well as TexRAMP for any folks on here from the great nation that is Texas. I'm based in the Austin, Texas area. But really where we're helping a lot of teams is focusing on getting the ROI as we're simplifying that IT operations. So you'll see here the average implementation is actually less than 30 days. We actually will typically tout that our operator efficiency is usually in about 10 days for IT teams to understand how to leverage the NinjaOne platform. And for those of you that aren't familiar and you're saying, what the heck is NinjaOne? Is that a Blender company? What is that? No, right? We are a cloud software tool. So typically with NinjaOne, there's 3 large areas that we're trying to help out teams. Number 1 is consolidating their IT tools, which is a little bit of a factor of lowering their cost, which I don't know many state agencies that I'm meeting with today that are saying, hey, Brandon, we just got way more money. We have a huge budget surplus, right? I think it's the opposite for a lot of different areas that we're meeting with. But we're also in the game to help reduce and mitigate risk that many of our customers are facing. So when you're looking at the screen, a lot of what customers are looking to leverage NinjaOne out of the gate for is going to be for patch management. Along with that is a lot of the remote management, right? Giving folks the ability to push out pieces of software, push out tasks, scripts, other services to these devices. We're very excited, right, about bringing in Dropsuite to the NinjaOne umbrella. So now we do have the ability as well to offer not just file and folder as well as image backup, but we do now also have a cloud offering. For organizations, I saw, right, CrowdStrike presented right before us. For organizations, especially at an enterprise level, leveraging tools like a SentinelOne, a CrowdStrike, a ServiceNow, we have those integrations built in. Again, our goal is to simplify the IT operations. If you're making the investment into some of those tools, NinjaOne wants to make sure that we're reaffirming your investment in those tools and allowing you to manage these endpoints effectively and working in tandem with some of those different tools. So ultimately, right, if you scan this, it'll actually take you to a trial page where you do have the ability to just spin up a NinjaOne trial and test it for your teams. What you're viewing here is a little bit of a high-level dashboard where really what I typically hear from IT teams, this is going to sit in their central IT office and they're getting a full 360-degree view of everything that's going on in their environments live and in real time. I think that's all I had. Perfect. I tried to keep it short and sweet as much as possible. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
That was fantastic. And that dashboard is so visual. I think that's such a great way to kind of leave things. So thank you. Thank you. We did have one question. Brandon, does it help with GPO pushes and ADUC management?
Yes, it certainly can. So we have a lot of tie-ins to Active Directory as well as Microsoft in general. So those are areas that we should be able to assist.
Great. Thank you. All right, last but not least, thank you, Brandon. We do have one more brief demo, and thank you, Karim and Michael from Twilio. We appreciate you being with us today, and I'm going to hand it right over to you to share with us a little bit of your demo and what you're working on.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So let's get the demo up here. All right, so Twilio is a communications platform that can enable you to send secure, trusted, and reliable messaging to your end users, your citizens. And so, if you imagine a situation where you might be sending out a text message, maybe today it looks something like this, right? You send out a message, it gets out there. Maybe you're using a short code, right? But you're updating a citizen about their benefits with a link to help them kind of hop out to go and check out the payment schedule that they have for their particular card. When you look at this isn't much different than any other message they might get. And how in the world are they going to differentiate this from something they might get from a fraudulent user, right? Anybody can send a message that looks something like this. Well, what we like to talk about is RCS branded messaging. Imagine if you can send a message out to your citizens that looks like this. First of all, it's got your local government's or your state government's logo at the top. It's verified because you went through a verified and trusted process to actually register to be able to send this RCS. And it's even telling them that, hey, this is verified. And it has your agency's name on it. Now the trust level has gone straight through the roof, right? Now I can look at this and be confident that the message that I'm getting is actually coming from your particular government agency. I can trust this now. I, as a citizen, can look at this and say, yeah, that's coming from them, and click the link and get the information I need. On top of this, RCS enables the capability for you to be able to see when they're reading the message. We're able to also bring in a bunch of additional enhanced customer experience, the ability to show buttons to respond rather than having them to type in particular keywords. We can present menu options for them to swipe through. And all of this is done through the RCS messaging, bringing up not only the trust, but also that customer or that end citizen experience. So this is just one of the many different ways that we can come and help you bring reliable and trusted communication with your citizens. We can do this not only with messaging, but also through branding the outbound calls. So we're able to help you make that outbound phone call, display your agency's logo, just like you saw, and present a reason why you're calling. All right. Awkward silence means I'm done. So if there are any questions or anything, more than happy to take them.
No, that was fantastic. So yes, I think the questions were answered in the chat, and Twilio is part of our Progressing program. So we are so appreciative of all that you all do and for the time that you took. All right, we started on time, and amazingly, we are going to end on time. Thank you all for hanging with us through this jam-packed session. Look for the follow-up, the guide that we will be sending. thank you all very much for your attendance. And if you are sitting here wondering, how do I get more engaged with GovRAMP, or if you're a government thinking about how to leverage GovRAMP more, please reach out anytime. You can reach us at get@govramp.org or info@govramp.org, and we're going to get the right person back to you. So thank you. Thank you. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and we will hopefully see you at the next virtual session and definitely in Texas in November. Thank you.
Thanks, Leah.